Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about Adam Aaron protecting AMC, upgrading AMC to 658 per share, how the liquidation has started, and many more in this video. Firstly, we're addressing a problem Adam Aaron talked about previously. AMC movie ticket scalpers above face price. To protect all our guests, your scalping days are numbered. We are monitoring eBay and other sites. We'll do our best to cancel your ticket and close your stops account. It's a violation of our ticketing terms to scalp AMC tickets. For those of you who don't know, there has been this situation recently where people are buying AMC tickets and then reselling them at a higher price on different websites. And this is something that Adam Aaron, along with AMC, is trying to tackle against. And we've also talked about this in terms of how it does have a damaging effect where it can potentially persuade other people to go to different websites because they can't get the tickets off of AMC. But the things that we've realized from this is the fact if there is a business for arbitraging these tickets, it means that the demand for AMC tickets are extremely high. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need to buy these tickets and resell it. So whilst I think it does have a negative news, which it is, it still has a very positive understanding towards how much demand we truly are receiving at AMC. But luckily, this is obviously getting addressed and resolved. So this is something that is obviously very good. Now, in terms of the upgrading for AMC, there's been a lot going on recently. So JPM has downgraded Cinemark, and also on Cinemark and IMAX News on Thinkorswim, they're recommending AMC upside. So Cinemark is up 107% in the past 52 weeks. If AMC did the same, that would be 318 52-week high, plus 107%, that will put it around 658 per share, just to semi-catch up a little in price. So firstly, the takeaway from this is obviously seeing what's happening within the industry. Now, we've already talked about how every stock within the industry should have seen the upside. And evidently we did for every stock apart from AMC. And it's completely normal for companies like Cinemark and IMAX to go up, because why wouldn't you? The industry that you're in is booming, you're making record revenues. The only thing that didn't make sense was obviously AMC, which has the majority market share, which is also breaking records and is experiencing the same benefits as everyone else. Now, with that said, with what we are seeing Cinemark and IMAX do and how institutions are viewing AMC right now, we are definitely seeing an increase in interest alignment from these institutions in AMC because they're definitely putting on more positive remarks for AMC. So if we are looking at AMC having that same sort of movement, if we're looking at AMC going towards the same trajectory, which it should have in the first place and it shouldn't have been a late thing, then we're looking at AMC going to 658. Now, bear in mind, this is just based off of the model of how Cinemark has reacted. This isn't basing off how much market share AMC has more than Cinemark. This isn't based off of how much revenue AMC is making more than Cinemark. And it isn't based off of future projections as well, where if we take a look at Q3 earnings, what we're likely going to be looking at is the profit margins increasing as well, and very likely for the revenue to be increasing as well. So for the very low minimum in terms of for AMC to catch up the same movement, to reflect the same movement it should have had along with Cinemark and IMAX, we should be looking at it to go to 658 at least. And with how interests are aligning recently, with how more and more institutions are accumulating, the very fact we are seeing news that are positive targeting towards AMC, we're definitely going to be looking at this very, very soon. And along with how the box office is growing, how more and more movies are being released, that wouldn't be a surprise to us. Now, fundamentally, AMC should deserve to go up. And we all know this. We've seen the Q1 earnings, we've seen the Q2 earnings, we've already seen how well the Q3 box office is, and very likely how well Q3 earnings will be. On the short seller side, they are not doing well. Friends who care about AMC don't need to worry too much, since the derivatives liquidation has already started. It won't easily stop. Based on the performance of the moving averages, the current state compared to the previous breakthrough of the 60, 200, and 365 MA shows that this week is the pre-breakout state for surpassing 666, and next week we are likely to see the price exceed the 666 MA. Now, the 666 MA has something that we've seen in the past before, where it has definitely acted to be quite significant. Whilst technical analysis I've always highlighted for AMC doesn't account for too much as it would others, the 666 MA has definitely been something that has proven to be quite consistent. Now, in terms of the technical analysis and in terms of shorts being liquidated, we are definitely seeing the momentum actually flowing in for AMC, along with what we've already said about how AMC is already moving towards that projection of 658 at the very minimum, with how the interests are aligning for all institutions and hence why they're accumulating AMC. Also on the charts right now from the technical side, we're looking at upward movement from the side of short sellers in terms of how much liquidations do they have, how much capital do they have to suppress and manipulate AMC. Those are all definitely decreasing. So we're slowly seeing this transfer of what was previously in the same basket as AMC, all of these swaps, all these derivatives, they are slowly being liquidated, so slowly going down in value. And when they go down in value, they won't hold the same effect as before to suppress AMC. This isn't to say we will see zero suppression of AMC, but this is to say that in comparison to before, you're going to be looking at less ability to suppress AMC. This is unless they start injecting even more liquidity, but we know that the more liquidity they inject, the higher the squeeze price will be, but also the more liquidity will run out for them, which actually speeds up the process. So this is obviously a very good thing for us to see. And the very fact they are seeing liquidations right now, it's of course already happening and going back to what we were saying. Now, along with the liquidity, what we could also be looking at is Bitcoin. So we're seeing Bitcoin spiking right now in midst of the recent news. And the potential for a considerable run-up in AMC, given Q2 ER, Q3 box office, and today's option chain. A somewhat wild idea is that Bitcoin is used as collateral for AMC short positions, and pumpkin Bitcoin is short attempt to stave off of margin calls and MOAs. Now, this is definitely something that we have talked about before. We've already understood about the assets they use to short AMC, just like earlier with what we talked about of being in the same basket. Some of the assets we've seen used in the past before are stocks like Nvidia and also crypto like Bitcoin. Now, this isn't a stand for me to say that I think Bitcoin is bad. Objectively, I have nothing against crypto. What I am saying is about how Bitcoin has been seen to be used as a collateral to short AMC before, and the very fact we're trying to see them pump Bitcoin right now as we see all of their assets are going down in value and they're lacking liquidity to short AMC, and then suddenly they need to pump another side of that asset. It feels like things are lining up. Now, once again, this isn't me to say that I think Bitcoin should go down because it obviously has its uses, but this is definitely us realizing that right now we are definitely having a massive effect on them, to the point where they're starting to position themselves more in crypto to short AMC. Because one of the recent moves we've seen recently is firstly reverse repo, or of course still at extreme low. We're seeing 0.2 billion. And we talked about how when that goes to zero and there is no more liquidity for the banks, there will be no more liquidity for the hedge funds either to short AMC. But more importantly, it's how companies that were previously short AMC are now starting to see more focus and more exposure in the crypto market. We're seeing Citi with 2.8 trillion to launch Bitcoin custody for institution clients. And they are someone we talked about before with short shares of AMC. They're someone we know with interest in the AMC price going down. And so the fact that right now with everything that's ongoing, with what we talked about, how Bitcoin collaterals ties in with AMC shorts, and then suddenly they're increasing their exposure to Bitcoin, it feels like things are lining up. It doesn't stop there. BlackRock is also saying that Bitcoin's 50% pullback is a positioning correction. Once again, putting more focus on it to crypto. It just feels like the institutions want to bring crypto up right now. It feels like they want to make crypto as bullish as possible. Now, different firms may have different reasons. Maybe BlackRock just had a very big exposure to crypto from the first place, so they obviously wanted to go up. But from my side of things, from what we are seeing with how some of the short sellers have completely changed their stance and suddenly gone all in on crypto while still increasing some of their exposure, it just feels like they are trying to find another way out. And I think the biggest clue right now we can get is Jim Cramer saying to go buy Bitcoin. And the funny thing about this is that just prior to this, he actually sold his Bitcoin. And then suddenly, as you see Bitcoin going up, he suddenly says to go buy Bitcoin. And we've already talked about and we understand when these media mainstreams, when these narratives, these guys who are trying to talk about go to buy Bitcoin, who are trying to say it's in the interest of retail, we know that it's typically the opposite. So whilst it looks like he's trying to say go buy Bitcoin because he might think the Bitcoin price is going to go up, it just feels like he wants to tie retail investors' liquidity in Bitcoin. It feels like he wants us to provide liquidity for the institutions in which they then short AMC. So this is something that obviously is just my opinion. Now, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it, but I definitely think that right now, as we see AMC suddenly on a bullish trajectory, and then suddenly they start to increase the price of Bitcoin, which we knew were an asset used in the past before to short AMC, it definitely feels like things are going weird. Another thing to kind of mention on top of all of this as well, it's how they're trying to focus on on-chain tokenized equities. And we talked about how this is something they've done in the past before. Now, this was to increase exposure in stocks. Now, what they try to say is that it's increasing exposure for memory and storage stocks. Whilst I'm not going to argue with that because that is the case, AMC and GME has been on chain for tokenized equities way longer than when SanDisk, than when Micron was kind of asking for exposure. So the very fact we are seeing an increase in volume, whilst they're trying to say it's for memory and storage stocks, I definitely think that a large majority of that is still used for the short sellers to short AMC. But the fact that they're trying to focus on this now is just adding on to what we've said. The fact the need to add liquidity into the market. And the very fact they need to add liquidity is kind of just screaming to us that they don't have the ability to short AMC like before, and they need to find ways to get allocations of capital to manipulate AMC. As always, this is financial advice, and I'll catch you guys next time.